Welcome back to Extraordinary Strides. I'm your host, Coach Christine, and today we have a story that's equal parts heartwarming, inspiring, and a whole lot of fun. It's not every day that we get to talk about a running journey in a true love story, but today we get both. Joining me are Shelley Swearingen and her husband, Jeff. Shelley is a dedicated educator in STEM who somehow manages to balance life's up and downs while keeping running and her strength training a priority. I should definitely say that. And what makes her story extra special, besides the fact that she actually is a runner who does her strength training, is that she has unwavering support of her one and only Prince Charming Jeff, who, spoiler alert, my friends, is not an avid runner. So he's been by her side through every mile, every finish line, and every post-run celebration, snack, or meal. So Shelley has made her big comeback to running at the Space Coast Marathon, half marathon last year. And then with Jeff cheering her on, she stepped into the magical world of runDisney at Princess Weekend. And we're going to dive into how she found her way back to running, what training looks like as a non-pro juggling real life, and what it's like to have a built-in cheer squad that doesn't necessarily lace up, but is still there every single step of the way. So my friends, let's get into it and welcome on in Shelley and Jeff.
Hi.
Hello.
Thanks.
So excited to have you guys here because I felt like I had just a little inkling. I've been able to scratch the surface of how special your connection, your relationship is at these two race weekends that I mentioned. But I wanted to also just kind of dive in a little bit deeper about how you guys did meet, connect, and how running has been part of your story, at least for definitely in this last year. So Shelley, I'm going to start with you. Take us back. How did running first become a part of your life and what drew you to it?
Well, I actually started running in high school. It wasn't my main sport. It wasn't my main thing by any means, but just had some friends that were like, hey, you should come out and run track with us. And so I went out and tried it, and the 2-miler was my thing. And then the following season was convinced to run cross country and started running. And it's just been one of the best things I ever did, even though it wasn't the thing in high school that I loved. It has stuck with me all these years, and it's come and gone. And for years it was just, 3, 4, never ran more than 5 miles for a long time. But that was where my journey started, was being convinced to do it in high school.
Were you into a different form of athletic? Is there something else that you loved? Was running your punishment, or were you okay with it?
It wasn't my punishment. Actually, I was a dancer, and I was on the dance team, like the kick line, and did that kind of stuff. I was a tigerette.
And go Tigers.
So, and we would run just as warm up. And so it was fun to, would run a couple laps around the school to warm up. They would tell us we needed to work on our cardio, and I would be at the end and dragging. And I always was super proud whenever I started running. Then the couple, 2 or 3 of us that were also running were getting out there and actually enjoying it. We were running those laps and, encouraging the others on the team it's not so bad. We can do it.
I love that. So you have quite the athletic background. So I'm going to ask, Jeff, did you have a sport choice when you were in school, or was running your sports punishment, or was it really your jam at all?
Oh, I did everything. I played football, turned down a D1 scholarship to play football, to play baseball. That's what I was telling Shelley. I was like, yeah, I did all my running in college. I was a pitcher, so you had to run all the time.
Right.
And, so in football, of course, ran. And I did do track because I was faster than most people, but I disliked that part of it. So,
okay.
But I did for many years, and then I don't know. Here lately, I've been lazy. I walk, but I don't run.
Hey, I think walking is a phenomenal way to move our bodies. We know now that it's actually almost one of the superior forms with low impact steady state. So good for us. So by no means of stretch imagination here are we definitely saying that walking isn't incredible. I find it fascinating that sports is such a big part of your lives. And actually now I can see why there's that big connection in STEM, because I do think they parallel each other a little bit. So I'm kind of curious though, from my understanding, Shelley, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, at some point running did take a little bit of a back burner for you. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And it's been kind of an on and off, but after I had the girls, that was, it kind of did, just being a mom run a lot. And I actually have ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease, and went through some rough years with that. And when I started to feel a little better, my first half marathon I signed up for was to run with the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. When I first did the Miami half, it was in 2008 or 2009, I believe, was my first run. And then a couple years later, I really got into it for a few years where I did a lot. And then in 2018, our family just went through a lot of hard things, and going through a divorce and things like that. I let it all slide. I let it all go. Wasn't taking care of myself for a long time. So
we call it seasons in life, right? And there's certain seasons in life that unfortunately we are having to prioritize other aspects. And sometimes our wellness does take a little bit of a back burner. So we're happy to have you back. And that's one of the things I want to talk about, because I know that when you guys connected, I think that running wasn't a big part of your life. Is that correct, Jeff?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, she did run, and I knew she ran. After we got married and I was moving all of her stuff in, we have this big placard with all these ribbons and all these, her numbers and all that kind of stuff. And It was a beautiful thing, but I was like, holy moly. And then she just slowly kind of started training a little bit. And then, some of us, I hit my 50th birthday, and so everybody had to start running around here. So,
so were you a bit surprised? Were you surprised, or what were you thinking because it sounds like, Shelley, you eased him into it, smart woman you are. It sounds like it wasn't maybe that much of a shocker, but were you surprised that it kind of started adding up and then you took on a role of like number one support crew, or did you see it coming and you were pretty happy with it?
Yeah, you can kind of see it coming. I mean, the number one support, that's just what we do. That's what I do. And I could see it kind of coming. And then, especially when she hooked up with you and started training and having some results. I mean, it's something, because she'd be out running, and days I'd go to work and I'd see her coming back, and I could see her form getting better. I could see her getting better. And I think she kind of started it. She needs a goal, so she picked a race, and I don't even remember what the first race that when we were together she started training for, but you could just see it coming and coming and coming. And then now the half marathon is a little bit more involved. There's a lot of 5 a.m. getting up, and I get up that early, so it's not that big of a deal. But it's because we like to spend in the evenings together. So it's getting up at the crack of dawn, and she does not like to get up. So,
Shelley, I feel you, girl. I don't like it either. I don't like it either. I love sleeping in. It's the best. I call myself a Goldilocks runner. I don't want to go too early. I don't want to go too late. I want to just right. But there's not that option most of the time. So, okay. So, Jeff, you saw it coming. You saw that she was getting more focused on it. And again, I think you mentioned it, Shelley, you are very metric focused. You are very goal oriented, I think, in your day-to-day life anyway. And it's been incredible to see how you've attached yourself and your identity to just this consistency. I don't ever hear you ever complaining. So I'm going to ask Jeff if there's any complaining going on. But before we get into that, I want to know a little bit of what was it like when you started to committing back to this training and getting into this time for yourself? And then I'm going to ask Jeff, what did he think of seeing you kind of as you started to progress in this commitment from a bit more casual to how he mentioned it's definitely a lot more committed now, where there's a lot of crack of dawn type of wake ups?
Yeah. I think I guess the him seeing it coming was me doing a 5K here and there, 4th of July, a firecracker run on 4th of July and here and there. And so I was doing a little bit. And then it was me turning 50 last summer. And, okay, I'm not going to I'm going to take care of myself. And with Jeff's support, not feeling guilty about doing those things for myself. I mean, it require the gear that I need, the training support that I need, the time, and not feeling guilty, and having that support. And then just realizing how the health benefits, the stress relief because my job is very demanding and does require a lot, but that being able to get out and do something for myself and to put my book in my ear, my music in my ear, and being able to go out and, just step away from the hard things sometimes and do something for myself, and having that support to not feel guilty and making that time. And it is the commitment also, because I do want to I like to have my evening. So I like to get up and get it done and taken care of in the morning. But it's definitely been just good that mentally, physically, and in every way felt good getting back to taking care of myself and doing something for myself.
It's been so beautiful to see it from my perspective. And it's also been beautiful to hear about the support that you receive, because from day one, I think you guys have such an incredible relationship in that you're really partners in this game of life, right? So it feels like there's a lot of talking about these choices and volleying it back and forth. And I know you mentioned early on that Jeff was fantastic at supporting with, like you said, the gear, because unfortunately, this is the most inexpensive sport that I think that there ever could be. So I do know that. I want to talk a little bit about that, Jeff, because we hear on this side, and I'm sure you hear it, but you're probably a little too humble to even realize how incredible your support of Shelley has been. I think specifically, I'm going to think back to summer where it's, 98 degrees at 4:00 in the morning, and you're dropping by and bringing her some fuel or hydration or supporting her on these longer runs. How does it feel to kind of know that you're such an instrumental part of her training and these goals that she has?
Well, again, it's just kind of something I do, and it's something that I enjoy. So it's fun. It's not like work, because you're so right. I mean, she gets up, on a Saturday to go do one of her long runs. And during summer, if you don't get up at 5, by the time you're, 3/4 of the way done, it's so hot that it's just dangerous. Mm-hmm. And then we've never found the exact right thing for her to carry and hold water and stuff. So it's just like, well, I'm not doing anything. So I get to check on her too, because, she's running all over.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's like, we have a golf cart. I wouldn't take a golf cart as far as she's running. So,
I love that you mentioned that, because Shelley, I know some of your running paths and you're almost crossing city lines. Like you're literally running through cities, my friend, in some of these. You're not just running in your neighborhood or your town.
Right. It is. And it's, yeah. And I like him coming to check on me. It's more fun than carrying extra water with me.
It
so
is.
Gives me something to look forward to when I run.
Yeah.
I want to get to this point before he gets here, so I'm going to keep
his
going.
Sunshiny face, bringing you gear and stuff. Yes,
right.
I want to talk a little bit about that as well, in terms of. Okay, so you've touched on it, Shelley. You touched on it, Jeff. You guys, this is not like we're not sponsored. Brooks or Nike hasn't come calling. You still have really busy lives. You're both very active in church and different organizations. You both give back to the community. I know that's very important to who you both are. Very busy work jobs. How do you juggle it all and still find time for each other?
That's the hardest part. And her biggest sacrifice is she does wake up at 5 because she could go run in the evening. But like you said, we have a church group that we lead together, and we do that on Thursdays. We do outreach through our church, and that's not that often, but I've got a church meeting I go to usually once a week by myself with her, and then half the time my daughter's with us, and we got all these things going on. So she does that, and then the gym, she gets up and goes to the gym at 5 in the morning. And that way we have in the evenings. When we come home, she's a teacher. She doesn't ever come home on time.
Right.
Ever. But we make time, and what time we get, we do pretty good together. So.
Yeah. And friends, Shelley is so passionate about her work. I want you guys to know, I know, first of all, thank you for being an educator and for what you do and shaping our future generations. It's such a thankless job, and we so appreciate it. But I think that it really does put a pep in your step, Shelley, and as to part of your DNA of who you are, because I know that you are so passionate about really pouring yourself into every aspect of what you do. So it's quite beautiful to see. And I know that kind of bleeds over both into your running. I'm curious if you feel like you wish that you could impart a lesson that you've learned through running to maybe some of your kiddos that you are there lucky enough to interact with you, or some of the different people in the world? If you could share a little nugget of wisdom that you've learned through running, what do you think it would be?
Hard work pays off, I think would be the hard work pays off, and that when you put your mind to it, you can do more than you ever think you can. And would be the two things. But I just want to throw out there too, while you're saying that, and we haven't talked about this, but coming back from runDisney this weekend, you would not believe how excited my middle schoolers were for me. Like, they had asked me to bring my medals to school. They wanted to know why I wasn't wearing my race shirt. They wanted to see pictures. I had a picture of me running up on my bell work Monday, and they wanted to see more pictures, and they wanted to hear about it because I left school early Friday to get over there, and had told some that I was going. And that was so fun to share that. Exciting.
Okay, well, let's do it. Let's talk about runDisney. You just experienced your first runDisney race. We spent a little bit of time before you jumped onto the microphone, friends, talking about how intense these early workups are. But I do want to ask you, Shelley, first, as to, was it different than any other race experience that you've had?
It was so different, very different. And the pros and cons, like we talked about, it's tiring and exhausting, but it's exhilarating. And running through the parks was just, there was not, especially for the first day on the 10K, there was not a moment I wanted my run to end. And I was like, I even I had a pouty picture of me running out of Epcot because I sent Jeff, I was like, I don't want it to end. It's
magical.
It is. And it was really exciting. Like, and I'd, living as close as I have and running, and I've never done one of those. And so it was definitely a very exciting weekend. Very awesome opportunity.
It was exciting to see and to feel your energy because it is so beautiful. I mean, I know that for folks that haven't done runDisney or maybe aren't big fans of runDisney, it truly is a magical experience. We could list a lot of cons. Cost is probably at the top of my mind. Those early wake ups is another one, but it really does have a lot of magical aspects to it. I think one of the most magical aspects to it, though, for what I saw of you guys, was that, Shelley, for you, running down Main Street and knowing that you were going to find your Prince Charming right before the Cinderella Castle was something you were very much looking forward to. So, Jeff, could you give us an idea of how you made this magical moment happen for Shelley? Because it's not easy. Spectating on Main Street is not for the meek by any stretch of the imagination. So can you talk us through how you made it happen and maybe your experience as a spectator there?
Well, you don't even know. I almost blew it all up. So the 10K, we had our plan. She got up, took the Disney bus there, no problem. I drove right in, parked, zero problem. Well, she did the same thing the next day. And then I get up after I shower and I'm getting ready to go. I looked at my MapQuest. Well, the hell did my MapQuest? Apple Maps. And It shows that the roads are closed, that you have to walk 4 miles. So I kind of freak out, go out. I'm like, okay, well, then I'm going to get on a bus. I go out there, there's no buses, no nothing. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, I don't really know what to do here, hon. And she's like, it's okay. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And and so finally I got in the right place and stayed put long enough that here comes a bus. I get on there and luckily got there. And then I think I'm so late now because she's finally started and I'm tracking where she's going. And I get there and I hightail it up, and you kind of got to wait to go and get all the way over to downtown Disney. And of course, I beat her easily, and that was something. Most of these races, they're just a bunch of people running around, and you're doing business. Well, here, I mean, even the spectators, you walk into Main Street, and then all the lights are on, all the people are clapping and cheering, and then there's the castle, and I've taken my daughter there, and now, Shelley's getting to run up there. I mean, oh my goodness.
Did you tear up a little bit? It's okay. You're amongst friends. You're in a safe space, my friend. Did you tear up a little bit?
Of course.
Okay.
I mean, because I've got a picture of me just bawling with my daughter on my shoulders. And that's about where we were standing almost when I got to see Shelley, which wasn't the easiest thing in the world. We're having to talk I mean, I've never seen a race where, she calls me, okay, I'm coming here. Where are you? And I'm like, I am 6'5" and I find there's somebody with these big pink bane stick things sticking up. I'm right behind them. Oh.
Friends, it is a dedication. I mean, it truly is to be able to spectate at Disney. We've talked about it before in the podcast. I'm definitely going to suggest you guys go back if you're thinking you want a spectator. For my friends that are listening in, you're going to want to listen to that episode with Lynn, because Lynn definitely does have a lot of tips for spectating. It is not easy. Main Street is super intense because people really do stake their spots out super early, because it is such a magical experience. I am so glad to hear that this fairy tale did have a happily ever after and you were able to make it there, because I do know that, Shelley, I know that you would have been okay if you wouldn't have been able to make it.
I was telling him it was.
But I know that it was a little extra special to have him there. And of course, also knowing that after that, he hightailed it back over to the finish line. And I mean, there's a lot, friends. He's putting in like at least his own half marathon during all this process.
For sure.
So I want you guys to know that it's definitely dedication and we love it. I want to ask you, Jeff, what's one thing that you would tell other partners of runners that have fallen madly into this, madly in love with this sport and or down the rabbit hole of all of the shiny metal things? What are some things that you would maybe suggest to them or tell them, or a little nugget of wisdom as to how to best support the individual as they pursue these goals?
Well, I imagine everybody's different. Shelley, she just needed somebody there to say it was okay to go do it. My wife thinks of everybody else and herself last. I remember when she joined, you had I'm not exactly sure, but she had like a trial thing where there's a group and it didn't cost a whole lot. And she was like, I think I want to try this. And I don't even remember. It was $100 or whatever it was. It wasn't a whole lot. And I'm like, well, we'll do it. And, see what happens. Worst case is you hate it. It's horrible. And then after it finishing, she's like, I don't really want to finish. And so I guess my thing is if it's so much for her that it has to be, I didn't like getting up at 2:45 in the morning, even though I stayed in there, I was awake, all that kind of stuff. But it was so amazing seeing her. She was sending me pictures of while she's running. I remember the first couple of races she did, the first couple of 5Ks. I thought, man, that was the first time I thought, well, I probably better start running and try to help pacing her. But that was before she had any real help. I would have been no help. But
I don't know about that, my friend. That's going to be one of the questions I'm going to have. So if that's coming down the pike. But so what I'm hearing you say is that there are going to be sacrifices, but that's part of being in a relationship, regardless if the person's a runner or a not runner. They have to have their passions. There are things that that they look forward to, and just being that sounding board, and also that person who helps to encourage them to put a little bit of themselves first. That's truly extraordinary. So again, I can't express how much we love to hear that. So listen up, my friends that are out there, that maybe don't have quite that same support. You need to send this podcast episode to your other half, because this is what it's literally all about. I want to bring it before we move on from runDisney, because I do want to hear what's next for both of you. But I would love, Shelley, because I feel like one of the things that is pretty amazing about the runDisney world is because it is a little bit different. And by that, I mean a whole lot different than a lot of other race experiences. And you said you learned a lot. What are some of the things that you feel like you learned that if there was a brand new runDisney person listening in and they just signed up for a race coming down the pike, that you wish that you knew going into it, or that you would want to impart that knowledge onto them?
Gosh, I don't know that there's one particular thing. I think more thinking people that are considering it, do it. And even if it's not something, like, I don't know that I'll be can do every single one and do it every single time, but it is so worth the experience. And I hope I can do at least one a year. But it's so worth the sacrifice of the getting up early. It's worth the waiting in the lines, going through all of that to experience that as a runner. I almost felt like it was a reward for all these years of putting in the running that I was doing. I have worked hard all these years, and now I get to go run through Epcot and get to go run through the castle and down Main Street. That it's so worth the experience. And I hope I can do at least one a year. And but it's so worth the sacrifice of the getting up early. It's worth the waiting in the lines, going through all of that to experience that as a runner. I almost felt like it was a reward for all these years of putting in the running that I was doing to I have worked hard all these years, and now I get to go run through Epcot and get to go run through the castle and down Main Street. That yes, there's the early mornings and all of that, but it's absolutely worth that experience.
I'm going to hear it as what I'm hearing is that it's really almost coming from a place of gratitude that this is something we get to do. And yes, it is incredibly rewarding after years of training. So I think that if you have, I love that encouragement with folks. And I think that's something valid to think of as well. We see in social media quite a bit where you see folks that are like they're doing it every weekend, or it doesn't have to be that. It can be something that we have a bit more sparse in our life, or it's something that we look forward to maybe every 5 years, but trying to have that as an experience that we budget for and plan for, I think is pretty exceptional on its own as well.
Absolutely. All right, I would say sorry.
No, you go.
I was going to say, obviously, just go and enjoy it and have fun too. I guess that's too, the not worrying about my pace and my time and just getting out there and being able to take it all in.
Yes. And I cannot reiterate that enough. If you guys want to run for speed, there are tons of hometown races that cost a fraction of the cost that do not have that on-course support and entertainment. But runDisney, it's truly about immersing yourself into it. I'm curious what's next for both of you guys. Shelley, I know we're going to be seeing you and Jeff again in just a couple of weeks, Shamrock, but do you have any other big goals on your horizon since we know that you're a goal metric focused kind of gal?
Well, I will surely sign up for Space Coast for next fall to keep going. I do. And like Jeff said earlier, I need to have, and I like having a race on the books and to keep my run and my goal to keep going. My biggest goal of all of it is to stay consistent and not to get, those seasons. And now that I've been back at it for coming up here in a year and a couple months, the biggest goal is to stick with it and not let it end. And I see these ladies out there of all ages out there running, and I want to keep with it.
That's my goal too, for the record. I want to literally run until like the last possible day. Jeff, what about you? What's next? Are we going to have you toe up to the line at maybe a runDisney 5K or 10K?
Oh, I don't know about runDisney.
But maybe another race? Do tell.
Maybe.
Okay.
I mean, it's pretty addicting when you're there. I mean, you like, especially me, I don't run now, but I did. And like, the 5K, even the 10K would have been easy. We did that before breakfast every morning, and so I know I'm capable of it. So maybe, I mean, I'm not totally against it. It's, it's a ways off. But
it might. Well, I don't know. I don't know, my friend. As you mentioned, you've already you pretty much did a half marathon day racing around trying to find Shelley at that castle in the finish line and afterwards. So, we're here to support you, friend, just as you've been such a great support for Shelley. So let us know when we can cheer you on as well. With that said, I'm going to ask you guys maybe to share any last thoughts that you would have about what running has meant to you in this season of your life.
I think it's been, this time around has just been so different. I feel like it's me totally taking care of myself. It's that turning 50 and looking at things differently, whereas I don't have to get out and beat anybody or beat any certain time. I just have to take care of myself and love what I'm doing. And I guess that's just the run keeps me sane, I guess, keeps me feeling, physically with having the Crohn's and colitis and living with that, immunosuppressant, the medicines, and the feeling like I'm in control of something in my life and feeling good about who I am and what I'm doing. I love being able to set a goal and reach it and feel great about where I am. And that feeling of knowing that I have such an incredible support and that Jeff and I really are doing life together and we truly do enjoy everything we do, doing things together. So I love that I can be out there at the races and see him there, and also knowing that I have the support, 110%.
I love this. I want to thank you guys for being such an inspiration, because honestly, your relationship is just so beautiful to witness, even in the little small pockets of time that I've been able to see how much you do truly care for each other. Shelley, do you want to give a shout out to maybe some of your students that were there cheering you on for your runDisney?
Oh gosh, that would be so hard because once I start saying names, there was a girl, little girl Peyton, that she was actually at Epcot later that day, and she was like, "My aunt said she would have taken me if I'd known." There was another girl,
Oh,
Elena, who signed up for a race, and then just, I mean, a bunch of my girls that are the
oh.
boys too. I can't say just the girls, but a bunch of the girls that just have been super sweet, super exciting. Um, Another girl's Faith, just a lot of them, super sweet girls that just been along, cheering me on. And
Well, they're lucky to have you, and I'm glad that
thank you.
you were able to get that support, because it sounds like, again, they were super excited, and not to mention the inspiration that you're providing, because that's always incredible. Guys, I want to thank you so much for taking time to chat with me and for sharing this lovely love story with our audience. It's been such a fun conversation. Shelley, your story is one that is truly going to resonate with so many runners. And we're all probably going to be calling you and asking you exactly how can we clone Jeff, or at least have some of, like, maybe he can do a seminar for some of our running spouses. So to everyone listening, whether you're the one putting in the miles or the one waiting at the finish line, I want you to know that you do matter, and we love to have you as part of this community. I hope this episode reminds you that every runner's journey is unique and every support system matters. If you love this conversation, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And until next time, keep moving forward, keep embracing the journey, and as always, dare to be extraordinary.